Please.
Thank you. The Commonwealth would call Cristina Carpio.
Good morning. Good morning, sir. Can you stop right there and raise your right hand to the podium, please?
Good morning. You solemnly swear that the testimony that is you shall report to the jury that not only the testimony will be national so help God. Thank you.
Step, please.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
All right. Buckingham, please.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
Could you please tell the jury your first and last name?
Cristina Carpio.
And can you spell your last name for the record?
C-A-R-P as in Peter, I-O.
And what do you do for work?
I am a general surgeon trained in trauma and critical care.
And where do you currently work?
I'm hired by Brigham, but I work at South Shore Hospital.
Can you tell us a little bit about your educational background?
I completed medical school and then went to general surgery residency for 5 years at Columbia Presbyterian. I then did 2 additional years of trauma and surgical critical care at Yale. And then I've been working for Brigham and South Shore Hospital since 2016.
And explain to us how it is that you work for both Brigham and South Shore Hospital as a trauma surgeon.
Brigham has many physicians of all specialties who are at South Shore Hospital. At one point, I think there was a merger attempted between the 2 institutions. Either way, my salary comes from Brigham, but I work only at South Shore Hospital.
Okay, so that was kind of my follow-up question. Generally, your day-to-day work is at the South Shore Hospital in Weymouth?
That's correct.
And what kind of hospital, or what level hospital, trauma level hospital is the South Shore Hospital?
A level 2.
And so if there are cases that come in that need more acute care, are they generally sent over to a hospital in Boston like the Brigham?
Yes, depending, sometimes we get input from the subspecialists to guide that decision.
And as far as your role as a trauma surgeon, do you actually do surgeries at the South Shore Hospital?
Yes, that's correct.
I'm going to draw your attention to January 24th of 2023. Were you working at the South Shore Hospital that day?
Yes.
And what was your role that day?
I was the on-call surgeon. I was physically in the hospital working.
At some point in the evening hours, were you advised that a patient was being transported to the South Shore emergency room as a level 1 trauma?
Yes.
And so when you are advised of that level of trauma, or you're advised of a critical patient coming into the emergency department, what do you do?
There are guidelines for how quickly we have to be present in the emergency room. Because I'm also operating, at times I may be in the operating room when that notification happens.
So in this particular case, when a patient, a female patient by the name of Lindsay Clancy was coming into the emergency department, were you able to go down to the emergency department as part of the assessment team?
Yes.
And who were you working with from the emergency department in this case?
Dr. Kelly McDonough.
Now, is that a common thing that you collaborate with the emergency room doctors or nurses and technicians in a situation like this?
Yes.
Did you have information that came in through the EMS or the paramedics about the nature of the patient's condition?
I recall that we were told it was a fall of unclear mechanism from a height of about 20 feet.
And were you advised that there was the possibility of maybe neurological deficits or some serious spinal injury?
Yes.
And as a result of that information, did that inform your trauma assessment?
It was already activated as a level 1. That's the highest mechanism when there is concern for a height from a certain level, a fall from a height of a certain level, and with possible neurological injury.
So were members of the neurology department also part of that trauma assessment team?
No.
Okay. As far as your assessment, did you go and physically see the patient, make observations?
Yes.
And did you observe her in the emergency department to be intubated?
Shortly after arrival, she was intubated.
So that was done by the staff at South Shore Hospital, to your knowledge?
Yes.
And did you observe injuries to her neck and her wrists?
Yes.
Did you evaluate those to determine whether they needed immediate surgical intervention?
Yes.
Did they?
No, they were superficial.
And as far as additional tests to assess whether there's any other surgical intervention that's needed, are you aware that CT scans were ordered?
Yes.
And are you aware what areas of the body they were ordered for?
We did a pan scan, which means we scanned the head, the neck, the chest, and the abdomen pelvis.
As far as your physical observations of the patient, did you observe any obvious injuries to her head area, like abrasions, contusions, fractures?
There were lacerations to her neck.
Okay, but as far as the rest of her head or around her, like,
Not
skull
obvious,
or
no.
face? And so when those CT scans were done, were you able to review the information that came from them?
Yes.
And as far as those CT scans, you're aware that there was a head CT scan, or two head CT scans, one with contrast and one without.
Mm-hmm.
And were you aware that the findings, were there no definite acute intracranial findings on the non-contrast enhanced head CT?
Yes.
And there were no significant findings on the contrast head CT, correct?
The head CT with contrast was what we call an angiogram head and neck. So it's ordered in two parts and has two reports. At the time of the documentation that was performed, we had the report back on the head section, but the neck was not completed at that time.
Okay. Was there eventually a completed angiogram of the neck area at South Shore Hospital?
The images were done, the report was completed. I don't know the timeline of when the report came in compared to when the patient was transferred.
So as far as your initial assessment in that trauma assessment period, or that wasn't information you had available to you about the neck findings, correct?
The angio neck findings, correct.
Okay. And that's different from other CT scans on the cervical spine and other areas of the spine. Is that fair to say?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. As the trauma surgeon evaluating this case, did you identify that there were some serious spinal injuries to the cervical and thoracic areas?
Yes.
Did any of those require you to intervene with surgical intervention?
No.
Do you recall making note that while in the emergency department, the patient became hypertensive and that she was identified as being hypothermic to 82.1 degrees?
I remember that she was hypothermic when I reviewed my documentation. The two numbers I saw in my note were normal values of blood pressure, not high values, not hypertension.
Okay. If I may approach you just with one of the pages from the notes, read your review. You could just tell me if I'm misinterpreting.
Oh, no problem. Which part?
It's towards the bottom, the second to last paragraph.
Oh, she was hypotensive, which means low blood pressure, different from hypertension, which is high blood pressure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, not at all.
But as far as the hypothermic, that you recall that she was at a very low core body temperature.
Yes, that's correct.
And do you know what was done to raise her body temperature?
We raise the temperature in the trauma room to be able to raise her body temperature. That's usually our first line of intervention.
And do you also have available to you at the South Shore Hospital what's called a bear hugger or some sort of blanket or wrappings that you can wrap around an individual to try to get their body temperature up?
Yes, we have that.
And at some point, her body temperature did come up to 95.2 degrees, correct?
Yes.
And based on your observations of her, did anything change about those lacerations that you observed once her body temperature was up that warranted some surgical intervention of those injuries?
No.
What was the ultimate recommendation for the care of this patient?
She had complex fractures in her spine at the thoracic level. We conferred with our neurosurgery colleague who was on call, who recommended transfer to a tertiary hospital.
And so where did this patient go?
Brigham.
Now, you identified that your hospital is a level 2 trauma, correct?
Yes.
After fully reviewing this patient, did you agree that this was a level 1 trauma situation?
Yes.
Are you able to do surgical intervention for these particular injuries that you observed on this patient at South Shore Hospital?
The spinal injuries require input from our neurosurgical team.
And there was none available to you at the South Shore Hospital?
We did contact the on-call neurosurgeon. Because we are a level 2 trauma center, they are not required to be physically present in the hospital, but they were immediately available and they can remotely review images.
So I guess my question is, why didn't you do any surgeries regarding those injuries at South Shore Hospital? Why did you recommend the care to a tertiary hospital?
The complex level spinal injuries was deemed necessary for transfer by our neurosurgery colleague.
Okay, thank you.
Reddington.
Morning.
Good morning.
Just a few questions. So South Shore Hospital, and you made reference to as being a trauma hospital, and the injuries suffered by Lindsay were level 1. Is that what it was?
Yes, that's correct.
That would be the highest level. Is that right?
Yes.
As far as risk or concern of the person's safety and health and survival.
Yes.
What time, if you remember, what time approximately was she admitted to South Shore Hospital?
The word admission means that she would have remained there as a patient, so she was never formally admitted.
Okay.
For the time that she was brought in by EMS, I would have to refer to that information from the record.
Do you have an idea as to how long she was at your hospital?
Likely several hours, but again, I would have to see the specifics in the charts of there is documentation with EMS for arrival and for when transfer occurred to Brigham.
Okay. And at some point, it was decided that she would be transferred to Boston, right?
Yes.
Brigham and Women's Hospital.
Yes.
And it was decided by someone that they weren't going to put her in an ambulance for that transport, right?
I would have to look at the record for what was the method of transfer to Brigham.
Do you know how she was transferred? By helicopter? Med flight?
I don't know, because MedFlight MedFlight covers 2 modes of transportation, MedFlight ambulance and MedFlight helicopter.
Do you know that she was med flight helicopter to Boston?
I don't know that.
And the time that she left was after you all had provided the treatment that you were able to provide to Lindsay as a patient, right?
Yes.
And you reached the end of your rope. She had to be transferred because she needed immediate high-level medical care, right?
She needed higher level of care. Yes.
Higher level of care. And as a result, she was then brought to Brigham and Women's Hospital. Now, the treatment that you had given would include raising her, apparently, temperature, I guess, because she came in at a low temperature, right?
Yes.
And did you use IV fluids?
I would have to check the record, but that is a common intervention.
So your memory would be that you believe that you used IV fluids, but you'd have to have me get out of the box and check the record to ask that question, right?
Yes, correct.
Okay. It didn't really work out very well, though, did it? Because you know that when she was brought to Boston after all of the time that she was treated at your hospital, she was still core temperature of 82 when she hit Brigham and Women's.
Objection.
No, allow it if she knows.
I did not look at the medical record from another institution. I only reviewed my note from South Shore Hospital.
Did you know that your patient had coded shortly after being brought to Brigham and Women's Hospital?
No.
Did you know that she had to have massive transfusions right after being brought to the hospital in Boston?
No.
Did anybody in South Shore Hospital make a determination that she had lost a lot of blood?
The EMS report did not share that there was a large volume of blood at the scene. She was evaluated part of her CAT scans also help us evaluate for intra-abdominal blood loss.
Okay, so when you raise the issue of the EMS, that would be the ambulance, right?
Yes.
And their report, their run sheet that they prepare, right? That's what you're talking about, right?
There's verbal report from EMS when a patient is brought in, and also the run sheet of the details.
Okay. And when the people from the EMS came in, did they speak to you about the verbal report?
They address the entire room, so all the staff in the room is available to hear the details.
And you're able to look at the run sheet, correct?
No, the run sheet is not always immediately available.
So did the EMTs, to your knowledge, as a treating surgeon physician in the trauma center, tell you that there was blood loss?
Not to my recollection.
Did anyone tell you that at the scene where she was being treated after coming out of the window and striking the ground, that there was blood on the snow and on the leaves and in the grass?
I cannot recall if they commented on that.
Is that important for you to know if there's blood loss on a patient?
If there is a large volume of blood loss, yes, the EMS will routinely comment on a patient being found.
Yeah, but that's the EMS. You're the surgeon, right?
That is correct, sir, yes.
Yeah, and one of the things would be blood pressure, right? What the person's blood pressure is, correct?
Yes.
And she had, if I understand your testimony correctly, low blood pressure.
She initially, when she came in, the note has a normal blood pressure, and then after intubation, her blood pressure dropped.
Okay. Do you know what caused the blood pressure to drop?
There were several factors at play. As we discovered from her CAT scan, she had an injury to her spinal cord in the thoracic region that very commonly causes issues with maintaining your blood pressure.
And do you know what her blood pressure was? I mean, if you don't, that's fine. You need the records.
Blood pressure at which point?
At the point I'm asking you about, when you noted that she had low blood pressure.
No, I don't remember how hypotensive she was, no.
As far as being hypertensive, did you know that when she finally hit the Boston hospital that she had massive transfusion of blood?
I thought I asked and answered.
Oh, did you?
You asked me before and I answered that no, I did not know that.
Okay. So how about, did you know that they introduced pleural tubes in both sides of her chest and removed many, many cc's of blood from both the right and left pleural cavity?
No, I just object to the line of questioning. The witness has already indicated she hasn't reviewed those records. She's not aware of what happened at the Brigham. To go through each and every injury is not necessary.
No, she can answer that.
No, I do not know that about the patient when she was not at South Shore Hospital.
How about the superficial cuts that you were talking about? Would you suggest or would you agree that on the right ulnar area and the left ulnar area of the upper extremities, right and left, that there were a deep cut noted in the skin?
The notes about her wrist injuries said that it was through the skin with exposed fat, but there was no exposed muscle or tendon. So
Okay.
those are more superficial.
So you would not agree that they were deep cuts on both arms? You wouldn't agree with that?
No, I would not.
And again, you're not aware of anything that was diagnosed in Brigham and Women's Hospital, right?
That is correct.
As far as the injury to her spine, what kind of injury was it? Do you remember?
It was at thoracic level T5, T6.
And what type of injury was there to the spine?
The report said that the stability of the pattern of it indicated that there was instability of the spine, which is why we conferred with the neurosurgeon.
Right. And nothing much came out of that either, as far as conferring with the neurosurgeon, right?
I'm not sure what you mean by nothing much came of
Well,
that.
you didn't show up to come to the hospital, right?
We didn't. I'm not sure.
Okay, the spine was transected at T5, T6, right?
The team, or rather the input you would need for further commentary on the spine would be a neurosurgery team. I am not a neurosurgeon. I am a general surgeon.
So you're not aware of the transection. You know what a transection is, don't you?
Yes.
Okay. And on your CAT scans or on your pictures that you were describing for the jury with no problem for the DA, did you notice that the spine was transected at T5 and T6?
There was compression of the bones. I would have to specifically look at the report to see if it used the word transection.
Okay. How about a thyroid? Did you notice anything about a thyroid?
It said that there was edema at the thyroid, concern for contusion or laceration.
And that's the extent of your knowledge. You don't know whether or not the thyroid was destroyed or anything, do you?
Correct.
Okay. How about her ribs? You notice that some of her ribs were broken.
I would have to look at her CAT
Have to
scan
look at-
report again.
Yeah. So coming in here today, you're not aware whether or not she had broken ribs because you haven't been able to look at your records. Is that right?
I did review my records. I would have to specifically state into the record what was the injuries. I would be happy to read from my note, which I know is part of
So-
the evidence.
Yeah. So who is it that decides that a patient is going to be med-flighted into Boston from South Shore Hospital?
Some of it depends on the level of injury and the transport teams that are available at that moment. Sometimes a med-flight ambulance is faster. Sometimes med-flight is available. It all depends on the available resources at the time of the event.
So what I asked you is who decides whether or not somebody's getting med-flighted out of South Shore Hospital?
Is collaborative between what resources are available for us to transport the patient. The decision to transfer the patient is made between the emergency room team and the trauma team, and
So
the
you
input
as the-
from the subspecialist.
Go ahead.
Let her finish.
Yeah, no,
Okay.
I didn't know she was still talking. Go ahead.
I finished, sir.
All right. So you as the trauma surgeon, would you agree that you had a little bit to do with whether or not she was in dire straits and had to be med-flighted to Boston?
I would be part of the decision to transfer her.
Do you remember that decision being made, and do you remember the meeting that you had to make that decision?
I remember conferring with the emergency room team that neurosurgery had said she needed transfer.
And it was by med-flight, right? You
Again-
don't know whether it's an ambulance or a helicopter, but you know it was med-flight.
It should have been med-flight, yes.
Okay, that's all I had.
Commonwealth, any redirect?
Just very briefly, doctor, it was very clear to you that this patient was suffering from multiple injuries.
Yes.
And is it the policy of the South Shore Hospital to make sure a patient is stable before they're transported?
Yes, that's correct.
And so that's what the emergency team and the entire team that's collaborating on her did, right?
Yes, correct. We would not put an unstable patient in any mode of transport to another facility.
So in the review of all the CT scans, the abdominal scans, the head scans, the chest x-rays, all of the things that were reviewed, it was identified that she was stable enough to be transported
So
to
I'm
another
going to
facility.
object because I think she's a
Yes,
hostile witness, and this is leading, which I haven't objected to yet, but at this point I am on this witness.
I'll allow this question.
I'm sorry, what was your answer?
Could you repeat the question, please?
So after reviewing all of the imaging, the CT scans, the chest x-rays, everything, you and your team were comfortable that she was stable enough to be transported to another hospital, correct?
Yes.
And I think your testimony was that a large contributor to the decision to transport was the information that you got from the neurosurgery team.
Yes.
Thank you, nothing further.
Anything on that, Ms. Brington? All right, thank you, Doctor.
Good afternoon.
So, Ms. Hadnett, you initially went into the home at 47 Summer Street. At what time that day? Was it in the evening, early morning hours?
It was the early morning hours
you-
of January 25th.
Okay, and you had somebody that was learning underneath you that was with you at that time?
That's correct.
And you went into the various areas of the house. You went down to the basement, right?
Yes.
You talked about the stain that you had taken swabs of that was on the carpet down in the basement, right?
That's correct.
And you went upstairs, and then ultimately you ended up in the bedroom, and you made observations of a number of blood drops, or red, brown, as you put it, drops on the floor, right?
There were numerous red brown stains on the floor, yes.
On the clothing, the bedclothes that were on the bed as well, right?
I do not believe I documented red brown stains on the clothing. It may have been there. I don't know if I have that in my notes.
How about on top of the nightstand, there was the knife that counsel had talked about, correct?
Yes, correct.
And then you look at the window, and there was a red-brown stain on the right-hand side of the window as you're looking outside from inside in the bedroom, right?
Yes, correct.
And you made observations of some of the markings on the shingles that were directly below the window and directly above where the red-brown stains were found in the snow underneath.
Yes, that's correct.
Your confirmatory tests, and first of all, what you do is you have your screening tests. Back in the day, they used to, you use the orthotolidine. Do you still use that?
No, not at this time.
Now you use what, crystalline? What do you use now?
It's called Tasselmeyer.
And the Tasselmeyer, basically, as I say, back in the day, it used to be that you would have vegetation that could give you a false positive, right?
Correct.
Certain chemicals could give you a false positive.
Correct.
Animal feces could give you a false positive, right?
Depending on what's in them, possibly, yes.
The test now that you have, the confirmatory test, is a lot more accurate, if you will, but still, nevertheless, I said confirmatory, screening, but nevertheless, you still have to do a confirmatory test, right?
That's correct.
And back in the day, it used to be Takayama test. What do you do for confirmatory now?
We use a test card, a human trace test card, which is something similar to a COVID test or a pregnancy test, where you just put the liquid in the beginning of the card, the liquid runs up, and if there's 2 lines, it's positive, and if it's only 1 line, it's negative.
So that's not the Teichmann test, is it?
No.
Okay, so the confirmatory test that you use, that's a color test, though, right?
It's a immunographic test. It's an assay, so it's not really a color test where you add the drops to the swab and it's going to change color.
Okay.
It's a reaction that's happening within the test card between antibodies and antigens that produce either 2 lines or 1 line.
So let's take, for example, in the bedroom on the floor that counsel had shown you a number of drops that were in the floor between the bed and that mirror, right? You did confirmatory testing on that?
I did back at the lab. I screened it at the scene and then, confirmed it back at the lab.
And that confirmed that it was human blood?
It confirms that it's blood and it indicates human blood. There is
You have to do a precipitin test or something to determine if it's animal blood or human blood, right?
So the test card that we use indicates that it confirms that it's blood. It indicates human blood because it may react with primate blood. So it's not specific to human blood.
The bottom line is that you, as a chemist working for the Mass State Police investigating this case, are confirming that the stains that are on the floor of the bedroom, all the blood, all those stains are in fact human blood, right?
I'm confirming the single stain that I collected from is blood.
All right, and when you say the single stain, that would be you use the Q-tip and you swab it, and that would be from all of the stains that were all over the place on the floor, right?
I did not swab each individual stain. I took a swab from each collection of stains.
Okay, and that was human blood, confirmatory, indicating it was human, right?
It was confirmatory for blood and indicated human blood.
All right. Now, one of the exhibits that the district attorney had pointed out to you was the mirror. Exhibit 161. You remember that, the mirror?
Yes, I do.
Hey, you see those drops that appear to be going down from above in a downward direction? You see those drops? You tested those?
I do see the red-brown stains, and yes, I performed a screening test on one of them at the scene.
Okay, and you're comfortable that in fact is human blood, correct?
I did not perform a confirmatory test on that specific stain back at the lab, so I just screened it at the scene, and that stain was not tested any further at that time.
It was what?
I performed a screening test at the scene. I did not perform any confirmatory tests on that specific stain back at the lab.
Well, there's no doubt that the stains that are depicted on the full-length mirror that we can see in Exhibit 161 and the stains that were on the floor next to the bed and the stains that were on the floor in front of the bed heading towards the door, all with the same consistency, right?
I didn't make any determination whether or not they were all the same consistency.
Human blood?
I did not make a determination that they were human blood, so based on the scientific results, I cannot say that they were human blood.
As a chemist and involved in crime scenes many, many times, would you agree that the substance that's on the floor and the substance that's in the mirror and the substance that's on the doorknob and the drops that are heading out of the bedroom, those in fact, more probable than not, would be human blood, right?
I do make certain assumptions based on the color of a stain, the size, the shape of the stain, that it could potentially be blood, and that would indicate what I might want to test further. So I don't make an assumption off the bat that it's going to be human blood. That's why we perform scientific testing to screen for blood and then to confirm it's blood.
Okay. So this here, you indicated was some type of insulation?
That's what it appeared to me. I mean, I'm not an expert, but it looked like some sort of foam insulation.
And it's a little difficult to see with the, see that there? Above the little orange, looks like a little balloon, but let's say it's insulation, or let's say it's something for bugs. You see the red substance on that object?
I do.
See the red substance, red-brown stain on that window ledge or windowsill?
Yes, I do.
You tested that?
I did not test that specific stain, no.
Yep. So do we know if that was blood?
No, not at this time.
Pretty obvious that it was, though, to you, right?
It appears to be a red-brown stain on the exterior of the windowsill, but I did not do any testing on it.
Okay. And did I hear you correctly that it was 5 months later that the state police investigators decided that you would get the shingles off the house?
I don't know when that decision was made, but that was the day that I was requested to go out.
And then the district attorney showed you the shingles and envelopes. You opened them up and looked at them. And you did a confirmatory test on those?
I did not. I performed a screening test on each of those stains at the scene. I did not perform a confirmatory test on those stains due to the fact that the red-brown stain color was no longer visible. So potentially
It was degraded because of the weather, right?
at some point the red-brown stains appeared darker. They were no longer red-brown. So I thought that the material could be less. So I didn't want to use any additional material for confirmatory testing.
School, as a chemist, you learn how to testify, don't you?
Yes.
One of the things they tell you is look at the jury. When the lawyer asks a question, you look at the jury and you answer the question, right?
That's correct.
Right. So can you just look at me when I ask you just a little bit, a question? Would you agree that weather affects, degrades blood if in fact it is on an object and allowed to stay outside?
Absolutely.
All right. And then, you can look at that. And then you'd agree with me that what you noted appeared to be dark?
Yes.
It would almost be like bat guano for that matter. We don't know what it is, right?
I'm going to draw your attention to a laboratory number 23-01723. Do you recall doing work on that particular lab number?
Yes.
Do you recall what your role was in that batch process for the lab number?
Yes. I performed the confirmation method for benzodiazepines on the urine sample and the quantitation method for benzodiazepines on the blood sample.
And in order to do, well, can you tell us a little bit about the benzodiazepine? What did you do as far as that particular test?
When testing both the blood and the urine, for the most part, the same method is used. We use a solid phase extraction method to separate the drugs from the rest of the biological material. Biological materials can have things like lipids and steroids and blood cells and bacteria and other things that can interfere with our testing. So we use this solid phase extraction method to separate the drugs and concentrate them to be able to run on our instrument. And then we run them on a LC-MS, which is a liquid chromatograph mass spectrometer that can separate the different drugs and identify specifically which one is present and how much is there. When we're testing blood samples, we can report out that value for how much is present. When testing urine samples by this method, although the method itself can determine how much is present, we don't report that out because concentrations in urine aren't really meaningful. They don't reflect any concentration that had previously been in the blood. They mostly just reflect how much of the drug was present in the urine. So we don't report that. There is an additional step that's needed when testing urine at the beginning of the method, but otherwise both the blood and the urine are tested in the same manner using the solid phase extraction and the LC-MS.
And in this case, with this laboratory number, the toxicology unit was in fact provided with 6 vials of blood and 1 vial of urine, correct?
There were 4 vials of blood and then 2 vials of serum plasma, which had started out as blood but were serum by the time we received them, and then 1 tube of urine.
Okay. And as far as the urine goes, in your role in this batch process, you conducted that benzodiazepine screen, correct?
Yes.
And it was positive?
Yes.
And then the further testing, were you able to detect any particular benzodiazepines in the urine?
I didn't conduct the initial benzodiazepine screen through the ELISA method, which was positive. Based on that positive result, I ran the confirmation method on the urine, which identified the specific drugs that were present. And that identified in urine nordiazepam, oxazepam, temazepam, and lorazepam.
And based on your training experience when it comes to those substances, if it's detected in either blood or urine, does it mean that there are those 4 separate substances, or could they be derivatives of one particular drug?
Yes, each of those substances is available as its own drug. You can get prescriptions for them, you can purchase them. However, diazepam, that's more commonly used than nordiazepam, oxazepam, and temazepam, breaks down into those other 3 substances. So often when we detect nordiazepam, oxazepam, and temazepam, they actually are present in the body because diazepam or another benzodiazepine was initially taken and it broke down to those 3.
But as far as your testing is, when it comes to urine, you can't determine or quantify what it was or if it was one drug or multiple.
Correct.
Now, in this particular case, you indicated that there was also further testing done on the blood, correct?
Yes.
And was it as well for the benzodiazepines?
Yes.
And that was just because that was your role in the batch testing for this case?
Yes.
What were the results in the testing of the benzodiazepines in the blood?
The blood contained 8.8 nanograms per milliliter of diazepam and 20 nanograms per milliliter of nordiazepam and 4.8 nanograms per mil of oxazepam and 1.9 nanograms per mil of temazepam and 61 nanograms per mil of lorazepam.
And in your role in this testing process, you're just running the equipment, running the tests, and getting the data, correct?
There is some analysis of the data. I have to ensure that the controls performed appropriately, that the instrument was running properly, and make a decision based on the instrument data, what I consider to be positive or not. But then it's handed off to another analyst who generates the final report.
And in this case, were all the controls appropriate, all the equipment running effectively, and everything done according to the policies and procedures of the lab?
Ultimately, all of the relevant controls that were associated with the samples performed appropriately.
And what did you do with the information or the data that you received as a result of these tests? What did you do with it?
I put it together in a batch file that contained all the data for my analysis. It contained the case data for the samples that were run on that day, as well as all the control data that was run simultaneously, and other traceability type info, and gave it to another analyst who reviewed it to ensure that laboratory policies and procedures were followed, that the controls performed appropriately in order to report the results, and that the results were scientifically accurate. And then after that analyst agreed with my findings, the data was put into the individual case files.
And in this case, the reporting analyst for the entire lab number of 23-01723 was in fact somebody by the name of Nicholas Roberts, correct?
Yes.
And you're aware that there were other forensic scientists who did other testing for other types of drugs in the same test, but it wasn't part of your role or your batch?
Correct.
Thank you.
All right, Ms. Reddington.
So the toxicology report you're familiar with was dated February 24th of 2023. Is that correct? Do you have it in front of you?
I can refer to it.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, and you can keep it right there and look at it. And then it makes reference to your lab number, and then it talks about the specimens that you've indicated, which would be the toxicology blood times 4, serum plasma, you noted serum plasma, and then urine, right?
Yes.
And when you say serum plasma, what is that? Is that just a breakdown of the blood, or is it that was actual plasma that was submitted? How did that come about as opposed to the actual blood in items number 1, 2, and 3?
We received samples that were taken for medical reasons, and the sample that was initially drawn would have been blood, but the hospital would have separated the blood cells from the liquid portion of the sample prior to it being submitted to our lab. So when I received it, it was serum plasma, but it would have initially been blood.
Okay. And likewise with the urine, correct?
Yes.
And you received all of these items in indicating light blue top tube, potassium oxalate, sodium fluoride. That was just so prevent coagulation, right?
Yes.
And then looking down further, it says on the toxicology blood, you make reference to, as you indicated, the 8.8 diazepam, the nordiazepam, the oxazepam, temazepam, lorazepam, and you're putting down, would that be nanograms per milliliters, ng/ml?
Yes.
Okay. And it's kind of hard to follow through with that, so I'm going to approach you. This is a copy of the blood toxicology report that you're referring to, right? Sure, of course.
Yes.
Okay. And this is the tox report for Lindsay Clancy, right?
Yes.
And it's making reference to incident date of January 24th of 23, correct?
Yes.
I'd offer this one.
Any objection?
No.
All right, that may be admitted.
Now, you can continue with yes. You then make reference to organic bases and neutrals, right?
Yes.
Can you tell me what is an organic base and a neutral? What does that mean?
That refers to, so the line above that, the organic acids and neutrals and the organic bases and neutrals refer to the results from the general unknown screen, which is another screen that was performed by a different analyst.
Okay, do you know who the analyst was?
Lisa Yell.
And would that be with the Department of the Massachusetts State Police?
Yes.
Okay. And as it relates to the tox report, it also notes that, what is an organic base and a neutral? What does that mean, though? I just don't know.
This testing procedure separates the drugs present in the sample into drugs that are more basic in nature and drugs that are more acidic in nature. This test looks for several hundred types of drugs, and so in order to customize the extraction method to target certain drugs, the sample is divided into 2 fractions.
So in other words, it gives you a broader spectrum, if you will, of the drugs that would be in the person's sample of their blood, right?
Yes.
And that detected mirtazapine, right?
Yes.
Lamotrigine, right?
Yes.
Probably mispronouncing this. Quetiapine?
Quetiapine.
And quetiapine metabolite, right?
Yes.
As well as trazodone, right?
Correct.
And just tell me, what is a metabolite? What does that mean, quetiapine metabolite?
When we consume drugs, our body will break down the drug often into another molecule before it's being excreted. And sometimes our testing can detect these breakdown molecules as well. So this test detected both quetiapine as well as its breakdown product.
So there was, that would indicate that there was quetiapine that was in the blood as well as a quetiapine metabolite or a breakdown over a passage of time.
Yes.
Also, just you guys check for everything. There's no alcohol detected, right?
Correct.
No amphetamines detected, right?
Correct.
There was a benzo screen that was positive, which we've already talked about, correct?
Yes.
Buprenorphine screen, none detected, right?
Yes.
Cocaine and fentanyl, none, right?
Yes.
Methamphetamines, none, correct?
Yes.
Opiates, none.
Yes.
Cannabinoids, that'd be weed, right? None.
It's the active molecule in there.
Okay. Diazepam, none.
Yes.
Nordiazepam detected.
Correct.
Oxazepam detected.
Yes.
Teramazepam detected.
Yes.
Lorazepam detected, right?
Yes.
And then finally it says organic acids and neutrals, none detected, right?
Yes.
And then you talk about, and that would be the acids, then you talk about the actual organic bases, and it lists all of the other items that we just went through. Trazodone metabolite, for example, so you have the trazodone plus the breakdown of
Yes.
the metabolite. You have the mirtazapine as well as mirtazapine metabolite, right?
Correct.
Lamotrigine, quetiapine, and the quetiapine metabolite, right?
Correct.
Now, you would also, in your direct examination,
May be admitted.
And then showing you what's been marked as Exhibit 105. And zooming in here on the open window and the orange ball there at the bottom, the red-brown staining right above that. Did you examine photos of that?
I did.
And showing you your notes E18. Is that a close-up of that red-brown staining on the open windowsill?
It is.
And what, if anything, can you tell us, based on your training experience, about this area?
So similar to the stain that was on the inside of the window on the windowsill, this stain on the outside didn't give me enough information to say the size or shape. So the only thing I could come to the conclusion was that it was a transfer stain. So some sort of bloody object coming in contact with a surface causing the transfer of that blood.
And are you able to tell the direction of that blood or how it was applied or anything like that?
There's not enough information in that stain to give that conclusion.
So basically all you can tell us is that something with blood on it touched that windowsill and left blood. Something with a red-brown stain on it touched that windowsill and left a red-brown stain.
Correct.
We could have E18 marked as the next exhibit.
All right, that may be admitted.
And then showing you what's previously been marked as Exhibit 108. The top of the first floor windowsill. Did you examine those red-brown stains?
I did not.
I have no further questions.
All right. Mr. Reddington.
good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
Just a couple of questions. You are, is it correct, you're a trained scientist? Is that what you're referred to, or?
I'm classified as a forensic scientist at the supervisory level.
Okay. And Maureen Hartnett would be classified as what?
She's a forensic scientist as well. The step below me, forensic scientist 2.
Okay. And is she the one that does testing on objects or items or substances to see if they're a particular, for example, blood?
She does do that. She is also trained in documentation of blood stains. So generally, that's why we do a lot of our examination through photos. So a forensic scientist 2 could be at the scene, do all of the documentation, make sure the photos are taken, and then those are examined back at the laboratory by in our case in Massachusetts, it's all supervisors in the crime scene response unit that do blood stain pattern analysis. We are also all trained in the identification of those biological fluids, doing a screening test as well as a confirmatory test for blood.
I don't want to be referred to as grumpy, but I'm just going to ask if you can just kind of keep your answers down a little bit to like maybe a yes and a sentence after that.
Okay.
Okay. So when you go to a crime scene, you're usually with a team. In other words, like Maureen Hartnett might be there, right?
Correct.
And other state troopers might be there searching the area, right?
Correct.
And one of the things that you are doing is relying, if you will, on your associates or other people that are working that particular crime scene to do appropriate and adequate testing of substances, right?
Correct.
So, for example, and again, when you're investigating on a murder case and you're dealing with substances that are deposited, for example, in that bedroom, the master bedroom, it's not appropriate, if you will, to speculate that something is blood, and that's why it's referred to as a red-brown stain, right?
Correct. We use...
But your experience is such that you have a wealth of knowledge as to the ability to draw an inference as to what it might be, right?
We're not able to look at a red-brown stain and call it blood. We call it by adjectives, so it would be deemed as a red-brown stain. We have to wait until we do a confirmatory test to say whether we call it human blood or not.
So when you say a confirmatory test, you're referring to the fact that you have a screening test that you can do that initially would determine if it's possibly blood, right?
Correct.
Then it goes to the next phase, which would be a confirmatory test, which Ms. Hartnett would do, right?
Correct.
And then you go to the determination as to whether it's animal or human. It might be a primate blood, but it could be a human blood, and then you determine that it's human blood, right?
The next step after Maureen is actual DNA, so it will tell you whether it's human or not human and whose blood it actually is.
Okay. So we know that there was a transfer stain from the inside of the house, if you will, onto that ledge on the right-hand side of the window, right?
I believe it was on the left-hand side.
Okay, so as you're looking out the window, it's your understanding that the smudge, if you will, that was on that window was on the left-hand side?
I believe so.
Looking at Exhibit 106. That shows this first floor window, right?
Correct.
And then farther up, it shows the second floor window, right?
Correct.
So if one was standing on the inside of the master bedroom and leaned on it with blood on their hand, or red substance, it would be on the right-hand side of that ledge on the window, right?
Correct. The one on the outside was on the right-hand side. The one on the inside, I believe, was on the left-hand side.
Now, you know that that was not tested, right?
I don't know if it was tested.
Right, you don't know what it is, right?
I called it a red-brown stain.
But the bottom line is, in your experience, looking at that bedroom with all of what you determined in the investigation to be blood, the inference that you would draw is that that's blood from somebody's hand, right?
Correct. And that is what is stated in my report.